4:15. We're going to go ahead and get started. So I'm going to start with some of our norms. We've done this every time in our academics committee meetings, so I'm not going to break that trend. The first one is all are welcome to come up to the table. So if any of you brave souls would like to join us up here, you are welcome to do that. Number two is to stay focused on our agenda topics, and that's out of fairness for the people who are presenting, the participants, and then also the public who may be viewing this later. Third is to listen to others and share in a respectful manner. 4 is the Finance Committee follows this meeting, so we are going to be respectful of time and end at 5:15. And then 5 is being open, having open discussion for feedback. And so with that, we will go ahead and kick it off with Dr. Lau and our APR analysis.
Okay, so most of you at your seats, or I tried to hit as many people back there in the rows, the seated area, with some data that we're going to be going over. So just to give you kind of the overarching view of this, what we're going to be going over in this initial packet that you have, that is the data that determines what our annual performance report score will be. But it's important to look at the data, not just the report, because the report doesn't really get you into the student assessment data. And so that way you're more able to see like our proficiency, how kids are performing, and those kind of things. And then there's some other metrics that go into our annual performance report. So the annual performance report is from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. It's made of essentially 2 parts. 70% is based on student performance. 30% is based on our continuous improvement score. And so we'll get deeper into what that means, but you just kind of wanted to frame that up for you. The department released this report to the public December 18th. And please keep in mind the scores that we're looking at happened all the way back in May of 2023. So we don't get our report back from the state until December. So we go from all the way in May to December before we better understand how we stacked up and how we scored. So really the purpose of sending this data out ahead of time was to give folks some time to digest it. And you'll notice there's a table of contents on the first page. It just kind of helps give you a guide to what we're looking at, because this can be a lot of information. So it's also something that you can take with you from this meeting, and should you have any questions, you can always contact Dr. McGinnis or myself or whomever is the point of contact, and we can get answers to you. So just wanted to let you know that. So if you turn the page and look at page 2, what you'll notice is these are our English language art scores, or, we also call them reading scores if you want to think of it through that lens. But really the data that you're looking at is not just one data point. It's not just, oh, this is how the St. Joe School District did. It is really framed up with regard to our comparison set. So the St. Joseph School District has a comparison set, and we do that so we better understand how we are performing compared to our peers across the state. So we're the 16th largest district in the state of Missouri. So sometimes that can be a challenge for us to find a comparison set, because several of those districts, for example, are either to the south of us and they have much different demographics, and or they're to the east of us and can have some different demographics. So we've worked really hard based on several different factors, whether it's demographics, size, several factors, one of which is, are they close to us, kind of more on this side of the state. So the school districts that you see listed in that chart range from Columbia all the way to North Kansas City. You can see, I don't need to read it out loud to you, but those are our comparative districts. So we have some that we call our stretch districts. So for example, Liberty, which is to the south of us, comparable in size, 19% free and reduced lunch. We're at 70% free and reduced lunch. So that's why we call it a stretch, because we want to try to better understand how we can get to that high performing level. But then a district that's very similar to us is Independent School District. So very similar from a demographic, very similar to size, all of those kinds of things. So that's kind of one that we're very similar to. We're very similar to Columbia, even though Columbia is a little bit larger than us. In North Kansas City, they are 54% free and reduced lunch, but they're about twice our size. And Springfield is about twice our size. So we just have to keep kind of all of those comparative metrics in mind. But really, the way that this is framed out, you can see how we did at each grade level. So for English Language Arts, you can see how the St. Joseph School District did in 3rd grade, 4th grade. It's the very last column. 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, and then English 2 is at the high school level. That's what that E2 means. And so you can compare, so for example, if you look at St. Joseph School District, our 4th graders were almost at a 40% proficiency, and you can compare that to, for example, if Independence. So that would be a 38% proficiency. So that just gives us some context of how we're performing with regard to our peers. It means nothing more than we just want to know what our next move is going to be and what next goal we'll set. And that's why we use a comparison set. The other thing that I did hand out ahead of time, and you'll find it at your stations, is I handed out a data analysis guide. So for folks that were able to take a look at this data ahead of time, as you go through the data, it is one of the things that we certainly do is look at it through the lens of what are our strengths, what do we see as a strength, what do we see as an opportunity for improvement, are there any surprises, and that helps us then as a team to plan what's our next. For example, what's professional development going to look like, where are areas where we need to provide support for folks, where are areas where we can celebrate with our teachers that we saw some improvements, so that kind of thing. So does anybody have anything on this particular page if you were able to do some data analysis or have any questions? I just wanted to provide this so that when we get to the report you have a context. Okay, so the next page, if you look, is page 3, and that is the math performance data. And again, it shows how we performed, certainly in math, and it goes all the way from 3rd grade to Algebra 1 is A1, and Algebra 2 is A2. So those are the areas that the state tests us, so that would be reflected in these proficiency levels. And I'll just pause for a second so you can take a look at that data. Any questions about that? And certainly we can have more discussion, but this is just kind of getting a feel for what the data looks like.
Do all the districts have the same curriculum with math? I know, when my kids were in school, they did the new math, and I couldn't help them.
Yeah, sure.
Do all the schools in the state have that?
Every district may have a different curriculum, but the state priorities are the same. And I don't know if Stacia, if you want to weigh in on that.
Yeah, the state does have Missouri Learning Standards, and within those Missouri Learning Standards, they set up priorities, which are essentials that they think kids should know when you are in that particular grade level. And those become the basis or the foundation of your curriculum. And then you look at what resources to support, what's the system that we have as a structure at the high school, middle school level. Those are all things that can be locally decided as a district.
So then if you turn the page to page 4, we are also tested in science. So the state requires that we be tested in 5th grade and then 8th grade science, and then biology. And biology is at the high school level, and right now that is at the freshman level. So again, the St. Joseph School District numbers are all the way over on the right, and then as you look, you'll see the other districts and the performance of those other districts.
I would just add a comment there that we are transitioning biology and making that a sophomore course. Right now it's been a biology course, and so we're hoping that will help if we have a freshman environmental science or physical science course to kind of prep kids before they take biology, that will be beneficial on academics. So that was a sell with our science teachers across the board.
So the next page is social studies, and for us, what does that mean? That means government, which is at the high school level. And that's just, that's an end of course exam that happens again, like I said, at the high school level. And you can see our proficiencies when you compare to other districts. So that data is really the student performance data. So that's, again, that's the statewide testing data. So that is a big part of how the St. Joseph School District annual performance report is based on those proficiencies. So I just wanted you to be able to see the raw data before you just see the report, if that makes sense.
I do have one question.
Yeah.
I see this is 0 to 60. So St. Joe is 33% efficient?
And which one are you looking at?
I'm looking at the one you're on right now, social studies.
Yes.
And so it just stops at 60, should it be graphing up to 100, or I'm not sure what this is?
Well, we could put it up that high, but for example, like Liberty didn't get, it's like 53.
I
So we
understand.
didn't
So
want to
this
make
should
it look
be-
taller.
It should be up to 100%, but that's a 33% efficiency.
Yeah, it's a 33% proficiency. Yeah, that's why we have those raw numbers there. So if the scale, if anyone was concerned about the scale, they know the raw proficiency number.
So that means like for St. Joe on social studies, 33.2% of our kids are scoring either proficient or advanced on
Right.
that test. So otherwise, they're scoring below basic or basic in that other part.
Yeah, I was guessing that. Thank you.
Okay, so if you look at the next page, on page 6, the other thing that you'll find on our annual performance report is college and career readiness. So the state looks at college and career readiness through 2 different lenses. They look at it through the lens of taking tests like the ACT, the SAT, work keys, and ASVAB is another test that we use, which is a military test. And so they look at the percentage of our kids that are scoring at a certain level, and based on those metrics, they come up with a percentage that they give districts in terms of their college and career readiness preparedness. The state did not release comparative data for this particular metric, so we don't know how other school districts did in this regard, but for us, I did put in this particular chart how we did in 2022 and how we did in 2023. And you can see that we improved from 53.8% to 57.7% in terms of the college and career readiness score that the state gives us. And then the other way that the state looks at college and career readiness is advanced credit. So that looks at the number of kids that are scoring 3 or above on an advanced placement test, and or if they're getting a B or better in dual credit or dual enrollment courses. And so we improved from 2022 from 40.7% to 46.8%. So about a 6% improvement in that particular metric. They also look at our graduation follow-up, and graduation follow-up has to do with where do our seniors go after they leave us, and it's a 6-month follow-up, so we find out where the kids are. Are they in a 2-year institution, a 4-year institution? Are they employed? or are they in the military? And so based on that follow-up, the state assigns us a percentage. And so this year, we improved from 86.6% in 2022 to 92.1% in 2023. And then the other thing that the state looks at, if you look on page 7, is graduation rate. And so for this particular set of data, I wanted to make sure and put 3 years of data so you could see a trend, not only for the St. Joe School District, but the trends for our comparison set as well. So you can see that in 2021, our graduation rate was 79.5%. It went to 77.6% in 2022, and it went to 70% in 2023.
77.
What did I say?
70.
Oh, sorry, 77%.
Does that include GED?
This is only our 4-year graduation rate, but things like that would go into like a 5-year graduation cohort or a 6, and the state even lets you have a 7-year graduation cohort. So if kids are graduating after they leave us, then yes. If they take the GED within their cohort, then it would show up in their 4-year. And then on page 8 is the dropout rate. Now, the dropout rate is not included in our annual performance report, but oftentimes people do want to know what our dropout rate is. And it's not, and just for clarification, it's not like you can take our graduation rate and subtract it from 100 and get our dropout rate. That's not how the state calculates it. And so I just wanted to make that clear, and it goes to the fact that we have the different cohorts that we have, whether it's a 4-year, a 5-year, 6-year, 7-year. Sometimes they have to backfill some of those based on when kids actually end up graduating for dropout rate. So our dropout rate in 2021 was 7.5%. 2022 was 6.2%, and in 2023 it was 3.4%. I think recently it was reported in the news press and perhaps somewhere else that it was 6.5%, and it was the highest in the entire county, and it's 3.4%. So maybe that person didn't have the most recent data. And then if you look on page 9, that's going to show you our attendance trends from 2021, 2022, and 2023. And as it happens, St. Joe School District on this time is on the left. So in 2021, we were at 75.1. 2022, we were at 70.5. And then 2023, we're at 79%. Right now, we're holding steady at 80.7%. But you can see that the blue line is certainly kind of, if you look across the graph, you'll notice that that tends to be higher. Like districts have continued to kind of suffer from chronic absenteeism. But the St. Joe School District has gotten itself back to where it's trending in the right direction, where we're coming back from that low of 75.5 and 70.5. And then if you look on page 10, this is the continuous improvement data. This is only year 2 that the state has looked at continuous improvement data. And continuous improvement data for the state, they want to know if we are assessing our kindergartners for readiness before they get to us. They want to know if we have a comprehensive school improvement plan, a strategic plan. We submitted our strategic plan to the state last year in December. We received all points for that, and it was scored regionally and at the state level. And so we received all the points for that. In addition to that, we got extra points for the Hilliard expansion. So that's called a career and technical education expansion. And in addition to that, they look to see if your 8th graders are all completing their individual academic and career plans. And we had 100% of our 8th graders complete that plan before they entered their freshman year in high school. So those are the things that they look for. They also look to see if our data is being submitted on time and if all the reports from the business office, audits, and finance reports are sent in on time as well. So those are the things they look through from a continuous improvement lens. And then the very last page shows you the percent of points that the St. Joe School District received on its annual performance report, which I'm going to hand out to you here in a second so you can look at it. And for accreditation purposes, the state requires we meet 70%. So 70% is the threshold for accreditation. The state's going to use 2022, they're going to use 2023, and they're going to use 2024 to consider a classification for districts, because this whole new report just started last year. So they want 3 years of I guess they call it a body of evidence before they would determine if they're going to change a classification for a school district. And right now we are accredited, so for 2023 we are accredited, but when they look at the data next year, that's when accreditation status could potentially change, depending on what they decide. So with that, I'm going to hand out the actual report, but I didn't want to hand out the actual report without you knowing where in the world these numbers came from. Oh, thanks. I'll go this way. Okay, so this is what the report looks like if you've gotten one yet, and if you haven't, we can certainly make sure you get one. And so basically what the state does at that very top level, does everybody have one? I'm getting it. I just want to make sure. Basically what they do is they tell you how many points are possible, the points you earned, and then they give you a percentage. I mean, just like you might see on an exam or something. Keeping in mind, though, we're trying to get to 70%, which makes it a little different than you probably recall when you were in school. So for the performance component, the St. Joseph School District earned a 52.5%. That is down 6.6% from last year. And for the continuous improvement portion, the St. Joseph School District earned 92.3%, and that's up 3.8% from last year. And then overall, we received 63.2%, and that is slightly lower from last year's score of 67.6. Then when you go and you look at the actual report, it breaks it down into performance. So you can see that first whole page is dedicated to performance. And that's all that raw data that we just went through. So it takes into account your English language arts, your mathematics, your science, your social studies. All of those, that first 4 lines has to do with that data that we just looked at. And it gives you the points that you earned based on those particular metrics. Then if you look at academic achievement, you'll notice that there is English language arts, mathematics, science, and social studies. They say growth. So that's the next 4 boxes. So the state not only gives you points for the proficiencies that we just looked at, but it also looks how your kids have grown over time. And that is a statewide model. And so when we looked at that data comparatively, the St. Joseph School District received second to last in terms of growth points awarded to our comparative set. Only Liberty Public Schools scored less than we did. Then you'll notice it says Success Ready. That's the CCR assessments and the advanced credit numbers that I just went over with you. Graduation rate, it gave us credit for our 7-year graduation rate because it was the highest of all of the graduation rates that we're allowed. And graduation follow-up is the very last line on that first page. And as I mentioned, that went up this year from 86.6 to 92.3 that we just looked at in the raw data. And so that put us at getting 100% of those points. If you look at the second page of the report, this has to do with the continuous improvement portion of the report. The continuous improvement portion of the report, as I just mentioned, is 30% of the points. So the state puts the most emphasis on student performance, and then 30% of the points is put on the systems and structures and improvement plans that the district has. So you can see that our improvement plan earned 30 out of 30 points. It says, the next line says LEA, that means district. Response to standards, I've already submitted that and we've received all the points, but that won't appear till 2024. Climate and culture surveys, we do climate and culture surveys. We had to submit a report to the state, which we did. Got all the points there. KEA, we received all our points for that. What does that mean? That's kindergarten readiness. Then the ICAP, we received all of our points for that particular metric, and that's individual career and academic plan. That's what I mentioned with the 8th grade students, that they all had a plan before they went to high school. LaTanya, do you have a question? I'm sorry. You sure? Okay. Attendance. You'll notice that attendance is worth 4 points, and it appears in continuous improvement. It doesn't appear on the student performance side of things. It's in continuous improvement. We receive 0 points. You have to be at 80% to even get 2 points. And so we were at 79%. And you'll notice the other districts, a lot of them also received 0 points if you go back to the attendance raw data. CTE expansion, we submitted a proposal to get those 2 points, and that was because we're doing the expansion at Hilliard. And then the audit, all of these things, the annual Secretary of Board report, the ASBR, and timely submission of MOSIS and core data, that all comes from data management in the business services office, and so they met all of that criteria for continuous improvement points. So that is the report in and of itself. There's a lot there. We did a deep dive into that last year and on a lot of these metrics, but the main point is that the raw data that I provided for you, those proficiencies, that really determines that big bulk of this report of how we did. And again, for that particular portion of the report, we earned 52.5%.
So we only have 3 grade schools at the 70%. Do you have the chart for each grade school? There's only 3 that's at the 77, like all the rest of them are below the 70.
We did not provide this data through the lens of each school,
Okay.
but we did provide it for the lens of each grade level. So like it would be all 3rd graders across the district, all 4th graders across the district when you were looking at that raw data. But each school does receive their own annual performance report.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of in jeopardy of losing accreditation on all of them but 3. I mean,
Well, okay, so the accreditation, and I just want to clear this up because I know what you're saying. The accreditation is based on the 63.2% on this report.
yeah, I know
So we have to, that score needs to be at 70%.
Yeah. So it's by a total, not like each school, like,
Yeah, each school feeds into that 63%.
so even if we just get a couple schools up, it'll fix it.
It-
Although it won't fix all of
It could, because like last year, we were at 67.6. So we were just shy of meeting that mark, and we fell some this year, based on, we fell in terms of some of our proficiencies. So, but I don't know how they're gonna do it. I don't know if they're gonna take 67.6 plus 63.2
Yeah, you
plus,
said the 3 years.
plus whatever we
Yeah.
get in 2024 and average them. They really haven't said exactly how they're gonna do it.
So 2024 is pretty important.
Mhm. I know that's a lot of information. But that's kind of why we wanted to try to get it out ahead of time, to try to sift through it all. But if you, and that's why I wanted to make sure you had handouts. You can continue to look at it, and if you have questions, I'm sure Dr. McGinnis can shoot them my way, or she's more than capable of answering those questions. But however you want to, have more questions or want to know different levels of data, we can get that information to you.
Well, I'm glad it's all combined instead of, I was thinking with each school, and I thought, wow, each one of these schools are gonna lose. But
Yeah, the schools, they're not singularly accredited, but all of their scores feed into what the district has.
and do you have the data before we closed Humboldt and Lake?
We would have the proficiencies, but they didn't have this report yet. So they didn't, this type of report just started last year, but we would have the proficiencies before the Humboldt and Lake were closed. We would have what the St. Joseph School District proficiency was beforehand at each grade level.
Any other questions or comments for Dr. Lau? Okay, we'll go to item number 2, Parents as Teachers Annual Report. Hand it over to Lauren Kelly.
Thank you, Dr. McGinnis. Hi, my name is Lauren Kelly. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay, I'm the supervisor of the St. Joseph School District Parents as Teachers program. And we're a really great kept secret. And we're hoping that with this and with other initiatives that we will get the word out and more parents and caregivers can participate in our program. So when you had your child, if your parents think back, you came home from the hospital and you had a manual that you opened up and it told you everything that you needed to do to raise this newborn in front of you, right? No. So that's the benefit and the value of our program. When you decide to enroll, you get a certified parent educator, and they fulfill a lot of roles to kind of help you with the growth and development of your child. Parents as Teachers started in 1981 in the state of Missouri, and it was a pilot program that soon became mandated by the legislature, and it was with the intent of focusing on child development. So parents needed that to be able to have the support to get their children ready for school. And so parent educators visit families in the home, and we go and we provide an activity for the family to do with their child. It's developmentally appropriate, and it is focused on learning principles, but the best part is it's play. So the young children learn best through play. Young children are also really, really capable of forming new neural connections, and so we really capitalize on this birth through 5 experience because this is formative for all of their future learning. So we serve families from the time that mom finds out that she's pregnant up until the time the youngest child enters kindergarten. So you can see with some family systems that could be for a lengthy amount of time over the course of some child rearing. The home visiting section is a big component of what our program is about. And during that home visit, we are also, in addition to focusing on the child development, we're also focusing on overall family well-being. So it's very difficult to parent if you have some circumstances that in your life that can make it difficult to help your child with learning. So we are going into the home and we're having conversations about what does this family need? What are their goals? What would they like to achieve for their family? And then we're equipped with community resources, connections to community resources, and then we can begin to have connect those families to those resources based on what they express that their needs are. Alongside the developmental milestones that we're looking for in every visit, we're helping the parent or the caregiver of that child begin to look for those developmental milestones as well. So when your well-meaning mother-in-law says, "Why isn't your baby rolling over? She's 3 months, both my kids did," and then you can bounce that off your parent educator. We can come up with ideas to support that gross motor development and figure out what is developmentally appropriate for the age of your baby. So all of this helps us provide experiences for the parents to be able to support their child's learning, and also very important in identifying delays. So we are constantly monitoring those developmental milestones, and then annually each child enrolled in our program receives a developmental screening, which includes health, hearing, vision screening, overall development, and social emotional. So we really have a good picture of whether or not the child is typically developing. If the child is, we just continue to support the parent in that endeavor. And if not, we then can partner with Missouri First Steps, the early intervention program, or the school district's early childhood special education program. Any questions about home visits? Talk to Yes.
So the program runs year-round,
Yes, ma'am.
and we have a total of 6 staff members, full-time?
We have 6 full-time and 4 part-time, yes. And then myself is the supervisor and an administrative assistant that works part-time for us.
Do you think that many staff kind of feeds the need of what we kind of want to see this program at the capacity, or?
We are in the process of adding capacity. We would love to have more staff members to be able to service communities, our community. What we have focused on as of late is diversity, equity, and inclusion. So we have staff members that are, 4 of us are bilingual, 3 of us Spanish, English, and we have a parent educator that we recently hired that speaks Chiquis. And so part of what we'll get into here with the data is we like to take what our program data looks like and compare it to the demographic of the community and figure out who's being typically underserved. So yes, we would love to grow the program. We think everybody should have access to this. Parents can access it at no cost to them. And that is in things, I'll talk about the funding here in a little bit, but that is in large part thanks to the school district and also Missouri DESE funds this as well. So,
And there was a flyer attached to this as well.
Yes.
Is that right?
And I will be happy to get it for you. We have it in English, Spanish, and Chiquis. This allows families to scan the QR code and then enroll in our program. As soon as they fill this out, their information gets entered into our database. We have their certified parent educator contact them and arrange for their first home visit.
I'm glad you mentioned play,
Yes.
because we forget. We're so busy trying to train to do this, why aren't you doing this, why aren't you doing that, but they're doing that in play.
Yeah.
And that's vitally important for these littles.
So the activities that we bring into the homes are really wonderful. We have the beauty of it is it's all toys that you can find around your home. Bowls, cups, spoons, dice, all of the different things. And so we talk about how, they're enjoying this activity with their child, they're forming these connections, and it's also working on a skill that they're gonna need that's gonna help them get ready for school.
And nothing they have to go out and buy a bunch of stuff
Correct.
up. It's
It's
all
already there,
within
yeah.
the home.
It's within their home environment because parents are their first and most important teacher. And so that's, they don't have a teacher until they get to kindergarten, the formal teacher. So in the home, the parent or the caregiver is that child's primary teacher, first and most important. All right, so other components of our program include group connections. We have some amazing events all throughout the year for parents to attend with their young children. Every month we have a play group at the Early Learning Centers. We alternate between Lake and Mark Twain. We also have infant massage quarterly, so parents can learn massage strokes to soothe their infant, help with tummy troubles, all of those types of things. We have really large events like Tiny Tot Town. We have over 700 we had over 700 individuals across 400 families attend our Tiny Town event at the Civic Arena last October. We made the Civic Arena into a small town for children, and so they got to run all around the Civic Arena and see the library, go to the doctor, see animals, things like that. And it's not just providing a fun experience for the children to do with their parents. Their parents are also getting to associate and be around parents of young children. They're making connections within each other, within the families, and then they're planning playgroups together, or you know, going and getting Happy Meals together. So it really does help them kind of expand their circle of support. In addition to screening in the home, we also host large screening events. We partner with the early learning centers and provide a developmental screening for each child prior to enrollment in the school district's preschool classes. Really great information for the parents as far as where their child is at in comparison to children of the same age as their child. And also we give them ideas for continuing to support that child's growth and development. A crucial part of what we provide too is in resource connections. So that really harkens back to the family well-being side of things. If a parent is hoping to get their GED, find another job, suffering from some health crises, or just really looking for ways to fulfill their basic needs like their light bill, all that's going to make it really difficult to focus on how well their child's developing. So we have partnerships with various agencies throughout the community, and we have a concise resource guide that we work with families based on what they express their needs are, and then they're able to access those resources with our support. So also during the visit is really, it's it's relationship based. Parent educators form professional relationships with the families that they serve, and this really allows us to focus on the strengths of those families and highlight those, and then we hope that that encourages that behavior. All of this is also to the end of reducing and preventing child abuse and neglect. So that is also very, very important. Okay, in addition to what happens in a home visit and our group connections, we also have a really robust teen and young parent program. So we partner with Youth Alliance's JUMP program and the YWCA's Healthy Teen program. And we have around 2 to 3 group connections specifically for teens each month, and that's in addition to them getting visits at each high school and also their monthly home visits as well. So we have a really, really core group of about 60 teen parents that actively engage in our group connections every month and receive those services through our program. Okay. So, any questions about that information before we move on to the infographic?
How many teen parents did you say again?
We have a core of about 60 teen parents that actively participate, that you can count on them being at the group connections and keeping their visits. All right, so moving on to the infographic, this is our program data. This is mid-year program data as of November of 2023. So every year we have 2 advisory council meetings, and this just gives us an opportunity to continue that work with those community partners that I was mentioning and get out the information about the services that we've provided. So this information, like I said, was from the end of November. We've since done many more home visits. We've done many more screenings. We're continuing to work tirelessly to serve families. We've added about 500 visits since the time, personal visits, and about 100 screenings since last November. This is what I was, to your question, Sarah, about the makeup and staffing. We have the demographics about what our population looks like as far as race and ethnicity. On the top portion of the infographic, you can see there's a section on high needs characteristics. This is something that DESE, our funder, has us look at. We're tracking information on each family to figure out what their needs are. So for single parent families, English language learners, families that have an incarcerated parent or a deployed in the military parent, all of those types of things allow us to increase our service delivery to those families, and we can visit them twice a month and support them through our parent education program in that way. Okay, so we also provide, excuse me, we also do some tracking on our resource connections and the goals that we document. And this happens a lot, resource connections and goals take place in just about every visit. So we are working on improving our data collection when it comes to that, because that is the bread and butter of what we are doing in a home visit, is helping with those types of connections. You have some data on the results of our developmental screenings and how that then funnels into the need for further assessment. So we are working again with Missouri First Steps for those that are under 3 to see if they qualify, if those children qualify for further intervention, and then with our early childhood special education department for our 3 and over. So. And then down at the bottom, we have 6 full-time parent educators, 4 part-time, myself as a supervisor, and then we have an administrative assistant who serves the Parents as Teachers program and also the early childhood special education, and she does some work with preschool too. So the outcomes of our program have, there's been studies on it done by the state, and we have some really, kids that participate in Parents as Teachers, we've been able to track better outcomes for them, clear up until 3rd grade. So the study shows that there's higher attendance in school, fewer absences, fewer tardies, higher MAP tests in all scores of science, language arts, and math, yes, so math. So higher proficiency with math scores, also lower retention rates. And the cool part about it is there's data for families that receive 0 visits in a given year, 3 visits in a given year, and more than 3 visits in a given year. And it trends upward for families that have engaged at a level of 3 or more visits a year. So just like I said, we would love for, this is a really great way that we kind of, learning starts at birth, and so children, when they enroll in Parents as Teachers, they become part of the school district when they very first come along. So thank you very much for all of your attention. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer, and if you need information on how to enroll, I'll be happy to provide that as well.
I just want to give her kudos. She's done a great job of really getting the data together for us so that we can make a plan to continually improve and grow. And we're just very thankful for Lauren and her leadership in this department. And thank you to the Board of Education and the community to support this program. Any questions? We love to talk about parents and teachers.
I did have one more. So, sorry if you already answered this, but how often is one family seeing a parent educator? Per month or?
Yeah, so families that we don't see any high needs characteristics, we're able to visit them monthly. And if we see 1 or more high needs characteristics, then we can offer visits twice monthly. Families get kind of busy, so we aren't always able to offer visits at that high frequency, but that is what their parent educator will offer to the community.
And do you think with an increase in staff, we can get it to maybe bi-monthly? Or bi-weekly, I'm sorry.
Unfortunately, that's something that is driven by our funder, the state, and we actually have a little bit of flexibility with it, but not a lot. Within any given reporting period, the state will only reimburse us for up to 12 visits for non-high needs families and up to 25 visits for, 12 for non-high needs and 25 for high needs families. So we wouldn't be able to increase the frequency without having a different funding source for that time. We can get creative. For example, our program year runs from May to May, so if a family enrolls in October, we can visit them weekly to kind of get those, to really front load those visits and provide them the support that they need, and especially in times of crisis, we often do.
Can you speak to where our caseloads are at? I'm sorry, I was
going to speak to
caseloads.
Yeah. So one of the reasons why I was like, let's talk to you guys about this, because we want to get the word out more and more that as we know that as parents, our participating in this program, as we get more and more, then we will be able to hire or expand. So our part, like for example, our part-time parent educators, unless we have enough families for them to go visit, we really wouldn't hire another person, if that makes sense, because it is on a reimbursement basis. So we really wanted to get the word out about that. But if you want to give specific numbers, I know we talked about it the other day, so it's might be a little off, but you're welcome to share.
So full-time parent educators have a caseload of anywhere from about 40 to 60 families, and that is really just based on the formula whereby you could visit a family once a month or twice a month. Our part-time parent educators are about half that, so they have a caseload of 20 or under, of 20 families or fewer.
And you all can expand based on how many people enroll, correct?
Yes, so we have, as of late, participated in a grant funding project where we're getting some enrollments through managed care organizations. We've expanded recruiting. Currently, we do recruitment at Labor and Delivery at Mosaic Hospital, and so we're working on continuing those community partnerships, working with Women's Health, WIC, the health department, and just really attempting to get the word out as much as possible. When we have group connections like that, we have some great word of mouth as far as parents that attend the events, then they find out that it's something that we're hosting, and then we can begin to enroll and visit them. So we are always working towards
and
expanding.
Is your setup for prior, so in Labor and Delivery, you had a full-time person at Mosaic?
We have a person that goes every day to Mosaic.
And in
so
2020 that stopped, but then you're still doing?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We weren't allowed during COVID to leave any materials or anything like that, but for better than a year now, we've gone almost every day, inclement weather excepting, and school breaks. But yes, we go, and any mom that has delivered that day, we can provide them with a baby bag. It's a book courtesy of the United Way, and then in the bag there's flyers about our program, and then all of the other different community agencies that new parents might benefit from.
And who do you get reimbursed? You get reimbursed through the state and like United Way and any other
Well, our
agencies?
visits are reimbursed through the state, visits and screenings. Our group connection, all of the other services, administrative and things like that, is supported by the school district. So, yes, the visits and screenings are the reimbursable services from Odessa.
Or thought of integrating like kinder music into this program? Kinder music? Have you ever heard of it?
Yes, I've heard
It's
of
kinda
it.
cool.
I haven't, would be willing to, talk about
Be a
it.
great group.
Yeah, I agree.
activity.
We often focus on rhyme, songs, literacy, so I could see it would be a great fit.
Lauren, when you offer that, when someone has a baby at the hospital, is there any follow-up with that parent? Because maybe they're not wanting those services right then, that day,
Yes.
but then they go home and 2
Yes.
weeks later, they're like, please help me?
Mhm,
Is there
yes.
follow-up?
There is. So
Okay.
our flyer is in the bag, the same enrollment flyer. And, we recognize that right after you give the baby is probably not the best time to receive a bunch of information. So every time we go in, we're quite respectful of that. We allow them to enroll on the spot, or we offer to call back at a certain interval so that we can, once everything has
Yeah.
time to get settled down.
That's good.
And that's another reason that we'd like to, begin to recruit in other fashions so that we can meet people where they are. Really, really interested in expanding prenatal enrollments because we can visit prenatally, and there's a lot of stuff to do to prepare for a baby, so.
That's good.
Is this an informational item for the committee, or is it going to go onto the board agenda?
Just an it'll be on the consent agenda for academics committee.
Lauren?
Yes.
So when you go and visit these moms at the hospital, do you keep like a database from the visits? Or do they fill anything out where you could come back, like Ashley said, maybe in a couple years and say, hey, just a reminder of the program that you have?
Yes, we actually work with Mosaic, and they provide us a list of who is in the hospital that day. If they ask for a follow-up, we do write down information to be able to follow up in that way, but we don't do a compulsory follow-up per se, like with every single person. And additionally, not everyone that delivers at Mosaic is eligible for our Parents as Teachers program. So irrespective of that, they get the baby bag and the gift, but if they are from Savannah or Avenue City or the Fawcett area, then we help them get connected with that school district's program as well.
The other thing that we have done is on our enrollment, our student enrollment now, we do ask that question, if you have any interest interest in parents and teachers. So we're gathering information from all families that are enrolling, if they have that desire.
And given our preschool cohort is around over 600 kiddos, we are able to also visit kiddos that are enrolled in preschool. So preschool screening is a great way to get families involved.
Any other questions for Lauren?
It's not a question, it's a comment. I just appreciate your program immensely. I mean, after each of my kids were born, I was completely lost, and I was lucky in order to be able to participate in the program all years of my kids. And then I was also a jump participant as well when I was a teenager. And so it does lots of good. I just want to thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. We do have lots of anecdotal information from parents that have said there's been some things that are really transformative that they've gained from our program. So thank you. I'm glad to know it impacted you positively.
Okay, the last item is our school start time survey, and I'm not going to elaborate on this a ton, and that's not because Dr. Segrist is standing behind me with ready to go for Finance Committee. No, you're good. But this is available, and Ashley Coates in the Communications Department created a PowerPoint that really summarizes the data, so you don't have to. So I would encourage you to go to our website, and that's on, if you go to board meetings and then academics committee meeting for today, that PowerPoint is on there. So you'll see high school parents would love for that to happen. Elementary parents, not so much. So you can go through each level of those. It's pretty mixed data, not overwhelmingly one way or the other unless it's divided up by certain groups. So I've communicated this with our board members, but I really feel like we have to have a decision on that 4-day week before we can look at this and determine if this would be doable on a 4-day week. So I wanted you to have this survey data because I said that I would do that in a board meeting, and so here it is, and it's summarized for you. But as far as a decision goes, I think that 4-day week has to be determined first. So,
Dr. McGinnis, when we
Yes, ma'am.
move forward, or whenever this goes to this board, I didn't see number, so I see your second slide has number of survey takers, but it's in a percentage form. So can we get?
Yep, that's in that raw data. Hang on. It's on the link, it should be. Well, shoot.
Is that just a separate attachment?
Yes.
Okay, I'll look there.
But I can add it on there. I'll have
No, that's
Ashley.
fine, I can go
Okay,
look
I
at
can
it.
have
just pulled the
Ashley on there,
PowerPoint.
add it on there. She created that for me. Any other questions for me on that?
When will the data be available on the 4-day week survey?
I do not know. That's not in my lane right now, so I think that would be something Dr. Edgar would be. That's not on our agenda for tonight, so I haven't prepared anything to speak towards that.
No, it's just that she said you had to decide the 4-day week thing before the late start thing, and I was like, they kind of flip-flopped the survey then, and we haven't seen any data.
I think that went out to staff.
The survey? It has, yeah.
Well, the
That's
staff, the
just not,
results.
it's not within academic services department that's leading that.
Are you able to give us maybe just like the raw numbers of the survey? Like maybe, or the percentages, like 50%?
I can tell you 46.5% of high school parents are in support of it.
Okay.
And I can tell you 58.7% of elementary parents said no, that they would not support it. And all this is on the PowerPoint there. High school staff, 35% said yes, 50% said no. And I think that's just adjusting to a 7 to 3 schedule. That's tough when you've been doing that schedule. Elementary staff, 56% said yes, 28% said no.
And that's all in that PowerPoint that?
Yes, it all is, yeah. Grades 8 through 11, 50.8% said yes, 37.7% said no.
Everybody got it.
And then it divides up parents, elementary, middle, and high school as well. High school parents are in favor of it, elementary parents not so much. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's accurate. 44% of high school parents thought that it would have a positive impact. So, but all of that is on there. So, and with that, it's 5:15, and we'll adjourn for finance.
Thank you.